The standing bend knee hip circle is really, really hard, and I want you to imagine that your leg is in a pail of honey, so there's a resistance there, and you're creating that tension with your mind and with your muscles. But you're going to bend your knee, and you're going to draw as big a circle as you can. So this knee has to be above hip level at that point to get your deeper hip flexor. And you can hold on for balance if you need to, that's fine. But again, you're generating some tension there, making those circles as big as you can. And remember, you have to go the other way as well. Let me just show you from the side. So getting all the way up, around, to the back, and up. This is the prone single arm V. This is the FRC technique. So you put your fist underneath your forehead, and you'll have one arm on the plate. This plate is a little high. I'd like my shoulder to be closer to the ground, but this will be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my hand into this plate, slowly building tension. So starting easy, but then slowly building tension until I get up to max contraction. I hold that as long as I can. And then I go to a lift off without shrugging. And again, I'm generating tension, trying to squeeze my shoulder blade back and down, lifting as high as I can, generating tension. About now is when I get a cramp in my lats. It's your single arm row and rotate. So you're going to row, open up, really reach to the floor, rotate back, row up. So not swinging out of the bottom, pulling yourself out of the bottom. And when you get to the top, really bring that elbow back, really reach with this hand, almost like you're trying to touch the attachment point. So you're going to come into your elevated hip flexor position. So if my left knee is down, I'm going to have the dumbbell in my left hand. I'm going to start right at eye level, just a normal Arnold press. I'm going to come out to the side, straight up overhead. Staying tall in my torso, not letting my back extend as I press overhead. Kneeling rotation with breathing. We're going to put our hands together, and we're going to reach with this hand, the bottom hand, a little bit to come right into, so that the shoulder and the arm are on the floor. And if you have a little bit more flexibility, you'll probably be able to sit back a little more. And I'm reaching with my bottom hand. And then I'm just going to sit in this position and work on breathing, work on my diaphragmatic breathing. So trying to breathe air into my abdomen, trying to keep my spine nice and long, so not kind of get all hunched around or side crunched, but in through your nose and out through your mouth. So you have your bungee attached to a power rack or something that isn't going to move. You're going to step back and do a reverse lunge, but then as you come up, this is going to come overhead and you're going to balance that position. So here, drive up, quick overhead, and then try to stabilize. And when you get overhead, I don't want you leaning back against it. I want you to just come straight up, boom, lock it in right there. This is a hamstring stretch, so keep your knee just a little wee bit bent, softly bent. Come forward to feel stretch in that hamstring. And then you're going to hold that stretch. And then the next thing you'll do is push your heel into the table. So starting slowly, but gradually building the tension. Then the next thing you're going to do is use the muscles in the front of your hip to sort of pull yourself into more stretch. So again, I'm actually generating tension in the front of my hip, and that's creating more stretch in the back of my hamstring, but I keep it going. So I'm not rounding my back, I'm just bringing my chest forward, and I'm actively generating tension. Then I'm going to relax that tension and hold the stretch so that it's a strong stretch. This is a technique I learned from Dr. Spina. He teaches a couple different courses, but the one I took was called Functional Range Conditioning. So this was a 16-hour course just on mobility training. So it wasn't sort of at the end of the 16 hours, poof, you're a personal trainer. It was like, we're just going to study mobility for the next 16 hours. And it was really well worth it. This is the 90-90 hip external rotation stretch. So we're stretching the external rotators of this hip. And the 90-90 position is basically this thigh is coming straight out from my body. This thigh is at a 90-degree angle going straight out to the side. But then my knees are both at 90. And that's important too. So don't let this knee get, tucked in. It's got to be 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is bring my chest out over my lower leg. So I don't want you rounding over and getting down. I want you just bringing your chest forward. What you should feel is something in the back of the hip or deep on the inside of the hip. What I don't want you to feel is any type of block or pinch on the front of your hip. If you're feeling that and you say, oh yeah, I feel it right in here, that is not good. That's not what we want. You should actually get someone to take a look at it and see, why are you feeling it in there? Is it because of the joint structure, or is it because of tightness, extreme tightness, or some kind of dysfunction on the back side that isn't letting the joint glide? Okay, so if you feel it on the front, stop right now. You can't do this stretch just yet. But if it feels fine and you feel it anywhere but in the front, I'm going to come forward till I feel almost an uncomfortable stretch, keeping my chest up. And I want you to hold that for 1 to 2 minutes, preferably toward 2 minutes. And then what you're going to do, without changing your position, is you're going to push your lower leg. So I'm thinking of pushing from the outside of my knee and the outside of my ankle. I'm pushing that lower leg into the floor, starting very gently and gradually building the pressure till I'm pushing my lower leg into the floor as hard as I can. So that's maximum isometric contraction. And I'm pushing. It doesn't feel very good. And sometimes people get muscle cramps. That's okay. I'm going to push as hard as I can, trying to get up to 20 seconds of a push. Now, I've just relaxed my push. You can tell because I'm not making funny faces anymore. I haven't changed my position. Now what I'm going to do is use the muscles in the front of my hip to pull me into the stretch more. So I'm not just going to let gravity do it. I'm going to actively pull myself into the stretch. Again, starting slowly, but then building some pressure. So I'm really pulling myself hard into that stretch, and I'm going to keep breathing. It's really important. Don't get, stress breathing. Just breathe. I'm generating that tension, trying not to make funny faces. And I'm trying to pull myself into that stretch for 20 seconds. Now I've relaxed. So see, I didn't pop up again. And I'm going to repeat it one more time. I'm going to push down. So for 10 to 20 seconds, now I'm going to pull up and pull myself into the stretch more. Breathing. Okay, for 10 to 20 seconds, now I'm going to relax and hold that stretch again, and it is not comfortable, for 1 to 2 minutes. And I'm breathing. For the 90-90 hip internal rotation, I'm in my exact same 90-90 position. This thigh points straight ahead. My knees bent to 90. This thigh points straight out to the side. My knees bent to 90. I'm going to come around this way. I'm almost trying to bring this shoulder toward this foot. Pretty far away from that. But it's a bit of a side reach. So I'm not just going to do I'm a little teapot and tilt my shoulders. I'm trying to side bend my body over there. So that's about all I can muster right now. So this is a really good one for the goalies, getting that hip internal rotation. So when you do drop a knee down or go into a full butterfly, you're getting a wider butterfly, but you're also not putting so much stress on your medial knee. So let's fast forward. Say I've held this for 1 to 2 minutes. Now again, I'm not going to back off. I'm going to stay there, and I'm going to push my lower leg, so the inside of my knee, the inside of my ankle, straight down into the floor. Starting slowly, gradually building pressure. Again, I'm trying not to make funny faces. I'm trying to keep breathing. I'm building that pressure over 10 to 20 seconds as long as you can. Remember, you're building up to maximum pressure, so holding for 20 seconds is going to be really hard. Now I'm relaxed. I'm not going to ease off the stretch. I'm going to now try to pull myself into the stretch a little more. And I'm contracting, I'm actively trying to pull myself more into the stretch. And then I'll relax. I can push again for 10 to 20 seconds. I can pull myself into the stretch. I'm getting a cramp right there right now. I'm going to pull myself into the stretch a little more. And then when I finish that, I'm going to hold again for another 1 to 2 minutes. So for this kneeling groin stretch, you're in sort of a frog position. And you're going to sit back to feel a nice stretch, keeping your neutral back position. And then you're going to hold that for the required amount of time. Then the next thing you're going to do is gradually, really slowly, start to push pressure with your knees into the floor. So building pressure, up to sort of a max isometric contraction. Gradually building pressure though, don't just crank it on. So I'm trying to pull my knees together, really, is what I'm doing. Then the next thing I'm going to do is try to pull my knees further apart. So using the muscles on the outside of my hip, I'm going to try to pull my knees further apart, sink down lower into the stretch, but actively, not just with gravity. I'm trying to pull myself down there, but slowly, gradually build that tension. And then I'll stop and just hold the stretch, sort of in a relaxed stretch position. So for this hip flexor stretch, remember, I don't want you extending your back, so I want you just tucking your bum under, bringing your hips forward, and you're going to hold that just in a static stretch. Then you're going to try to pull this knee forward and kind of straighten that foot, so almost like you're trying to kick through from here. And again, starting slowly, gradually building the tension, build, up to about 20 seconds. And it should be hard, And then what you're going to do is tighten your glute on this side, use your hips a bit on this side to pull you into the stretch more. Again, don't let it pull you here by arching your back, just pulling your hips forward into a little more hip extension. And you're going to hold that and generate that tension for up to about 20 seconds. And then you're just going to relax and hold that stretch position.